everyone, welcome to another episode of Diamond Cast.
Hello.
We're on fire this year with new episodes of Diamond Cast. Every week we've been going so far, haven't we? We probably haven't. That's probably a lie. I fucked it up already. So today we are going to be discussing the subject of whether bands still need record labels, DIY versus signed, and we're going to have a little bit of a debate. But first, what's under Ben's hat?
Well, so this is very important. I've had a haircut. Okay, don't panic. Don't panic, Vincent. Because Vincent just saw me just before we started recording. He was like, man, you haven't shaved it. Say you haven't shaved it. I was like, it looks like I could have done. And then just like left a little mullet at the back, a tiny little mullet at the back. But I haven't. So
good.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought, let's keep it on brand.
Is that a diamond black hat?
It is. It was like a test one made by the merch company that we work with.
Oh, that's cool.
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
And but my hair was getting to the point where it was just so bulky and ridiculous. I had it tied up all the time, and I just felt annoyed because I couldn't really do anything with it. And I like having interesting hair, but I just had tied up hair. So I went and got it cut. It didn't quite go according to plan. Hence the hat. But basically, anytime I have a bad haircut, which does happen a lot, I always just think I just feel lucky that I've still even got hair, right? Because I think once guys get to a certain age, so I've read, once you get beyond a certain age and you've still got hair, then it's sort of like you're safe.
We're locked in.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of like once you get like beyond your sort of mid-30s, sort of, then you're safe. So I'm beyond my mid-30s, so I'm safe. Okay, so I'm just really grateful for that. But it didn't quite go according to plan, and because my hair's curly, it means that if you cut it too short, it just curls up onto this tiny little curly like dog on the top of my head. Yeah. So
this is some building anticipation, man.
I know, right? Isn't it? It's exciting, isn't it? So I'm going to reveal it to you now. I've overdone it, obviously, because
I feel like
it's going to be normal, isn't it?
Like a poodle. No.
And listeners at home, watchers at home, they've not seen this yet, so this is a live reaction reveal. Okay, cool. Okay. So basically, it's just the same as it was about 18 months ago. So. See.
Oh, cool.
Oh, that looks actually cool, man.
That's wicked.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
That's cool. That's sexy. Well, no, it's still build up for nothing. I want to see that.
You wanted it to be shit. You wanted it to be shit because that's funny. That's content.
I was kind of hoping it was going to be like a poodle or something.
Yeah.
But it's not. Well, it's sort of it's got cool sides and like loads on top, and yeah, it's like a.
It goes well with the scarf.
Yeah, it looks like it's ready to play on stage.
Thank you. Well, I have had to straighten it. I was hoping I wouldn't have to straighten it anymore, but I have had to for this. It'll grow back in a bit. But shall I wear the hat for the rest or not?
Cool.
No, leave it out. Leave it out. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Do you still change the parting depending on what side the camera's on, or are you going to keep it this way now?
The way that it is now is it will only go this way because it's cut in a certain way where it's not symmetrical. So it sort of has to go this way now.
I need to add like hair discussion into our YouTube description. We talk about hair more than we talk about music.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
absolutely. But yes, what were you saying that the
Well, you said your haircut didn't go according to plan. Was the plan like it needs to be multi-way?
I wanted it to be. I wanted this bit so that I wouldn't have to straighten it. So there was a period about a year ago when it was longer and I didn't have to straighten it, but now I have to straighten it again. So I actually had to go and buy some straighteners. I'd thrown my other straighteners away in like delight, like I don't need you anymore. And then I got back when I had this like weird curly little dog haircut, and I was like, I'm gonna have to go buy some fucking straighteners again for 2 weeks of use. Well, I thought, as I'm only going to use them temporarily, I just got some Tresemme ones, which are about 20 odd quid.
Not bad. GHD is the best.
That's the job.
Yeah. But now, when I had the hat and your hair now, we look like we've done our Wayne's World and Garth thing again a little bit.
We can totally do that, yeah.
Because your hair's looking fucking epic.
Getting Garthy. I need to get cut. This is what happens when I don't cut it. I look like
a blonde Claudia Winkleman.
Don't say that.
It looks good though.
Oh no, but
it's very stylish.
Yeah. So, Adam, did you want to tell us about your dreams?
No, I didn't. Oh, yeah. Well, I dreamt a song that I've been writing this morning. It's like a musical song, a bit of like a knees-up kind of 1920s style. You know, like everything's like an innuendo in that, so it's all like very as your fathery. And it's called I Clean My Pipes, right? And it's it's about a vicar who gets nervous. He gets nervous before mass because he can see his organ at the back of the room's a bit dirty, so he has to wait till everyone's gone and clean his pipes, and then he doesn't feel nervous anymore. So I've been writing that this morning.
That's what you dreamt about.
Yeah, and then I woke up and I played on the piano. It's really fun.
That's actually amazing. I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's amazing. That level of creativity.
Discord exclusive at some point.
Has he got a name yet?
Well, it's I Clean My Pipes. That's going to be
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Of course it is. That's useful. Yeah. But I like how cogent it is. I like that
that's a plot, yeah.
It wasn't just like a weird fragment of that idea. It was the completion of that idea.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I've been annoying Natalie because now it's stuck in her head, so I keep singing it.
Well, maybe we should do some like exclusive content that includes that and a full recording of Vinny's Tough.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
It could be a double A side of
Actually, there's probably going to be a few songs that come out of the discussions we have on Diamondcast, and I think maybe like a sort of Diamondcast exclusive that you can only download. Like,
yes,
members.
Yeah,
after finishing the lyrics. Anyway,
so,
that's fun.
Definitely have those two songs on it. That's inevitable. That has to happen.
Have you recorded Vinny's Tough yet, Ben?
I've recorded it in my head. I've even got down what the backing vocals do and stuff.
No way.
So it's ready to go.
Have you written all the lyrics?
Well, the way that I've done it, the version that I've written is more like what you'd have on a commercial for Vinny being tough. So it's quite short. It's maybe like 30 seconds. So there's really only the chorus lyric and the backing vocals. But I will expand it into a full version if public demand is there. We do have a crowdfunding for Vinny's Tough, the full version. But yeah, I will do the commercial, like the advert version.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's film it when we do a shoot as well. We could do a little after shoot film and then we can put them together. This would be great.
We could also finally do all the raps, Vinny. You know, we've done like 3 or 4 raps that we've released to the world.
The raps were cool.
Benny C and Vinny V. We could actually record them properly. You could record the drums just by saying them into the mic, and then I'd do my vocals. So it'd be pretty cool.
Do you think we have enough material for an EP for that rap, like a rap EP or something?
Well, given that each rap is about 42 seconds long max.
We just loop it.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so this is great. New material on the way.
Cool.
Brilliant.
What this just shows is that Diamond Black are constantly always making up songs and lyrics and thinking about every part of that production, no matter what the genre, no matter whether or not it's for Diamond Black or just a funny or silly troll/joke. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool. I think that's great. I think people would love to know that this is what you spend your kind of
free time,
fun times, or free time, or sleep doing.
We don't. No time is taken away from producing music for the band because it's just done in sleep. It's just created in sleep.
Natalie was like, "Oh, you need to be recording your bass." I'm like, "I can't put inspiration back in the box, so I need to write my pipe song."
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. And sometimes, like, in all seriousness, I think sometimes doing creative things just for the fun of doing them is quite a good way of having a break from, like, the job music, because it's just you doing it because you enjoy doing it rather than, this has got to be perfect or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think...
Well, we were talking the other day about different songwriting exercises and writing in different styles. So that's why I was like, yes, I'm going to write this 1920s musical song because it's fun.
You've got a bit of a thing for that genre anyway, don't you?
Yeah, I love that stuff.
So that's probably why you dreamt about it.
Probably.
What do you think Yanni's going to say?
Wow.
I don't know.
This is boring.
No, he won't say that. It'd be awesome. Depends if he understands the euphemisms. Maybe it doesn't translate. It's very British.
maybe just the whole genre is so quintessentially British of the 1920s.
Actually, last week or the week before, we were talking. You guys were saying about having an album that's just phrases that, idioms, if you like.
True.
And so, I guess does "I clean my pipes" come under an idiom?
I don't know if is that something that people actually say.
Yeah,
because it's more like they'll like in everyday conversation. Well, I mean, you do obviously.
Maybe not.
But I guess vicars do because they have organs.
But then they're not saying it as the innuendo. So it's
you don't know that.
True. I
probably say it all the time for a laugh.
My research. So, but yeah, it's more like in for a penny, in for a pound, isn't it? That's more the kind of those sort of sayings, which would be another really good one, wouldn't it? Actually.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll work on a series. Right.
There you go.
Should we talk about something sensible?
So the actual topic we were going to discuss this week, we've still got time, is so we want to start a debate. Do bands still need record labels in this day and age in 2025, or is DIY the better route? So I guess it's one of the biggest questions in the modern music industry today. What would be the pros and cons, I guess, from your point of view, being signed versus staying independent?
Anyone want to go first? Do you want to go first, Adam? You got some answers?
I got some notes. I got notes. Yeah, I'm professional.
Nice.
I mean, I guess that we'd say the advantage for us personally, which is what we're looking for, would be the industry connections and the exposure. That's the big benefit that a record label would bring.
Like having a dragon in Dragon's Den.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Because,
exactly. Yeah.
But the problem is, like nowadays, you have to supply everything, Chris. So it's not like the funding and the campaign. It's more about the connections and can get you on bills and stuff. So it depends what you really want to do, because you can do it yourself, but then you have to provide everything. I don't know. What do you think, Ben?
I think, it's what I think is really freeing about being not beholden to the gatekeepers of the industry anymore is that, just consulting my notes, is that certainly like in the 80s and 90s and some degree into the 2000s, you could only get success if you got signed, and you could only get signed if somebody else thought you were worth signing. What does that mean? What's worth? And it would be due to things like your age or so sometimes it was even bizarre things like if you were from London, you were more likely to get signed than if you were from Leeds at a certain time. Or then there was a whole there was a big interest in Welsh bands for a while, and then certain Manchester bands became cool. And it's sort of rather than what's your music actually like and what's your message actually like, because I think the labels would see, oh, that seems to be selling well, so therefore let's do more of that. And that's nothing to do with how you're expressing your music and stuff. So the other thing that made it more challenging was that there's only finite spaces for visibility for artists back in those days. There's only X amount of pages in Kerrang. There's only X amount of spots in the top 40. There's only Top of the Pops. How many bands would there be on? 7, 8, and that's it for you. That's your lot for the week. And there wasn't anywhere where you could have a platform for your music unless you were approved by somebody else who would then put you out there. Whereas now there are bands that I'll get introduced to, have you ever heard of Colin's Table, whatever. And I'm like, no, I've never heard of Colin's Table. And I go and check them out, and they've got 1 billion followers, and they're playing at Alexandra Palace because they haven't had to be beholden to the gatekeepers. They've just gone out and been successful and built up a fan base by doing what they like. And these bands, I don't know who the bassist is or the drummer is or how old the keyboard player is or what kind of shoes the cello player wears. I just like the music. And I think that's been really empowering for bands, is that you can still do high production stuff and build a fan base without somebody else going, yes, I think you're worth doing that. The downside of it,
I've got a counter to it, I guess.
Is that, I was going to say that the counter to it is that then you have to basically fund everything yourself to get to that point, which in our case has either come from our own pockets or from building up a fan base and then selling merch, or there was a time when actually we did a music video and we said, if you can help us with this, then we'll put your name in the credits. So things like that. I guess there is an upside to that, because then we don't owe anyone any money. And you're not struggling to like, I really hope we sell records because we owe the record company X amount of like thousands of pounds. But it does mean that we have to find the money in the first place, out of our own pockets a lot of the time. And that can be challenging. What were you going to say was your counter to that?
Well, you have to do your own PR and stuff as well. Or hire sort of consultants and things like that and pay them from your own pockets to do your PR for you, because you can't do everything at once. Obviously, you're making music, so you have to get all that.
With labels, the ones that we've spoken to, you have to provide all that and the music videos, and you have to pay. They don't really support you financially, really, as much as they would before. You have to provide all the finished products and the finished masters and the finished videos at your own expense. So
which makes sense, because they know they're not going to really sell any records because people don't buy records. So therefore, it's a big. They can't go, hey, here's X amount of cash because we reckon you're going to sell X amount of records. Therefore,
well, that's what I was going to say when you were saying like back in the day when it's like, there's finite space and there was the gatekeepers and like Kerrang only had 40 spaces. My counter to that would be like, well, they were all really good because there had to be a certain level of decentness you had to pass to get signed, and then the labels would put some money into you and like curate you and like
guides you on how to behave or
so there's a
act.
quality control bar to get in those things. So there's positives and negatives. It's good that anyone can do a band now, but it's harder to find the diamonds in the rough because there's so many things out there.
Personally, for me, I think it also depends on the record label, because I personally know people who are in bands that are signed to labels and they're extremely happy with it. So, those labels, there are a lot of labels out there where they really take good care of their artists. And, like I said, I know these people and they're extremely happy with it. And also, just because you're not signed to a label doesn't mean you cannot get successful. There's also bands out there who are doing extremely well financially, doing big tours, and they're doing everything on their own. They're not signed to a label. They're not tied up with anyone. And they just do basically whatever they want. They have complete freedom. But on the other hand, there's also really super big bands out there that are signed to major labels, and they stick with them because they have all the right connections, as you said. They have the money to fund everything, and again, they look after their artists. Like I said, it depends on the label. There's some other smaller labels out there probably not that big compared to labels like Universal.
I guess our answer to the question of the pros and cons would be it depends on what your goals as an artist or a band are, and then what kind of deal you can get with what label. So it's more of there's no right or wrong way to do it. It depends on what you want as a band.
I guess the ideal, certainly my perspective, the ideal would be that you build up enough of a following yourself to be attractive to labels, so they're like, oh wow, this is a really good product. We don't want to change what you're doing. We think what you're doing is really good. We just want to work with you because we've got more reach and we've got an infrastructure that means that you guys aren't just doing it yourselves every day, and you can get on with writing the next record. So I think if you create value for yourself beforehand, then you're not so beholden to the label's whims because you've already got a product. And you might be like, oh, well, we've got a few options actually because we're doing really well already. I think that's sort of a goal, rather than going from nothing to suddenly huge exposure, but being completely beholden to the label going, well, we don't actually think that the band's photo should be that. We think you should have maybe a goose in the because geese are really in right now, and
dude, that'd be awesome.
Just a goose though, not you.
Yeah, just a goose.
What, no band?
Yeah.
Oh, cool, yeah.
We think that really represents the message that we're going for here, guys. And as much as, we... I think it's interesting. I do wonder, when you look back on like really famous bands, their first few albums, I mean, I heard that certain like Def Leppard's second album, they hated the artwork. They hated it, but they couldn't do anything about it because it wasn't really up to them, or there was some clause in the contract somewhere that said that they didn't have any choice in it. Right. So yeah, I mean, the track order, which songs get dropped and stuff like that. So
yeah, I mean, for an artist, you want hands off, but support.
Yeah.
In addition to what you said, Ben, I agree. I agree with that because, before back, in maybe 90s or 80s, there are instances where an A&R sees the band for the first gig, and immediately they get signed like that. It was happening so much back then, but now, like you said, you have to kind of prove yourself and establish yourself first, and to get attention from the labels. And I really think that's what's happening right now. I'm not saying that, back then, the way they signed bands is not happening anymore. It probably does, just a little bit. But I think more and more labels are looking at the bands who are already kind of doing really well for themselves or established before they work with them. Do you think that's why
in the 70s, 80s and certain 90s, even early 2000s, there are certain bands that only did one album and you're like, this is amazing. But then they never did another one because their label didn't want to, or the sales weren't good enough or whatever. Yeah. And therefore the label didn't continue to fund it.
Yeah, probably. Or, like I said, they probably formed the band. It's a three less than a year old. They got signed, they went on tour. And then after that, they just decided to call it quits and they still owe the label a lot of money. I've heard so many stories like that where after the label, injecting millions of dollars or millions of pounds to them, they decided to disband, and that was it, the end of the band. So I guess labels are also getting really, really careful before they sign and take on.
People don't realise that an advance is not like, here's some cash. An advance is like
you've got to pay it back.
Yeah, it's an advance.
Yeah, and I suppose that's why now they require that sort of social proof to, if you can get a certain number of followers on your own organically, then they're not taking a punt on random people that they
like back
never
in the day.
with.
I guess you'd get in a van and tour relentlessly and build a fan base up like that way. Whereas now it's just like you have to get online and promote relentlessly. So it's like just move digitally.
Mm.
Yeah, there's still so much work to do, and we're really appreciative to you guys who have supported and followed us, and as well, like everybody who's contributed to our journey by just buying some merch. Just that alone is a huge deal for us because it means that then we can keep doing stuff. So we're super appreciative of that. I have had some experience, and I know you've had experience with labels. I think you had an experience when you were 18, didn't you, Adam, of like signing with someone really big?
Yeah, Warner Chappell.
Tell us about that.
I mean, our lead singer cocked it up when he went drunk to the meeting with them afterwards. So there's not much of a good story to come out of it. But yeah,
could have been a good story.
I'll go into that one day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've with my own bands, I've only ever been signed to sort of small labels, and I remember there was. With this one particular band, this one particular label, we used to end up having what the bassist and I called the hot ear phone calls, which were basically, we'd have a weekly phone call with the guy from the label, and like nothing would get sorted and nothing would happen other than you come away with like a hot ear from holding your phone for an hour with like nothing solved. But then it was like, they felt like, well, we've had our phone call with the band this week, so all good.
It's before hands-free. Before, like speakerphone, rather.
It was one of those. But yeah, I remember coming away from that really frustrated because we were beholden to this label to actually do stuff, but nothing seemed to be really happening. And then you couldn't get hold of them; they wouldn't respond. And I think if you can get that independence yourself beforehand to show, like, we've got power and a following, and then it gives you a lot more agency when you're actually working with a label. And in terms of, I think what we've chosen to do is, because we've got these singles coming out and we've been doing them at quite a sort of good rate, we were saying that what we want to do with Diamond Black is, for the EP, as in the sort of the 4 or 5 tracks that we're going to put on that, we want to do that independently because we wanted to keep that momentum going of making releases and content. Whereas if we were to negotiate with a label, it might take some time. But we have been looking at the idea of doing the full album with a label, and we had some conversations and we're getting some demos and things ready, and we have been talking to some really, really cool labels and some cool people. Just for our initial singles and EP, we wanted to keep it the speed up of getting things done.
Did you just drop a bit of news then?
Might have done.
We've got an EP coming out.
I might have done.
Ooh. Wait.
I didn't even mean to do that.
And applause, there you go.
Okay, who knows what EP stands for?
Well, it's extended play.
Correct!
Yeah, oh good, I was trying to question myself.
I thought that was a joke.
No.
I thought you were asking the fans.
There was a joke there. Yeah. I was thinking of something funny. Episode.
But that's so old school, isn't it? Because it means because four or five songs on an EP, extended play, because it used to just be one song that was released per time. I guess that was probably why that was that.
Well, we've talked about most of the things on the list and covered in the first question, because you kind of expanded on those things anyway. But yeah, so you wanted to. So like, what do you guys think? Like for you, in your position that you're in now, you've built up quite a good following on the internet. It's growing all the time. It's doing really well since like this time last year. We've got a lot further on. We've got Discord, we've got YouTube, we've got all sorts of things going on. Where are you in your sort of label journey?
Ben?
So we have had some discussions with people for a while now. We were initially looking at doing an EP with a label, but we just sort of chose to let's try and for now get content out and stay and keep it independent, just so then we've got control of when stuff comes out, with the idea of building the fan base, and then, as I said, doing an album with a label. We've been talking to a few like really, really cool people who are much more like in tune with the way that we want to do things. The idea of, I remember I talked to a label once with a previous band. They were like, you're going to do one single and then a whole album, and it was just, they were so stuck on that like old school idea. Whereas I think when you talk to labels now, they understand the importance of doing many singles, because then you're spreading that content over a longer period of time and getting more kind of mileage for everybody out of it. And then everybody gets to get excited about this song this month, the next song the next month. Whereas if you put 10 songs out there straight away, I think for a lot of people, myself included, sometimes it's too much to take in, because we've all got so much other stuff that we're doing and listening to. Whereas if you can do a number of singles and then suddenly the album comes out and it's like 4 or 5 tracks on there you haven't heard, it's like super exciting. And the people that we've been speaking to label-wise have been really on board with this more kind of more modern approach to things. So yeah, it's exciting. Now, one thing that you brought up earlier was about the hidden challenges of being independent, and having. I mean, we've all been doing this now, and like, what do you guys think that people at home might not know about the kind of amount of work that we have to put into it ourselves?
I mean, it is a completely full-time job if you want to do it seriously. Like, you got to live it. And I think the hardest thing is, well, I don't know the hardest thing, but perseverance and continuation, and like not getting dissuaded or jaded, I think, or like when everyone else is saying like grow up, stop living, trying to live the dream. But it's just like you got to be quite strong-willed and quite determined. That's what I think anyway. So
yeah, and
going against the grain is always a difficult choice, you know.
And really organised and like one of the things that I have found up until about a year ago really time consuming was the merch, like packing and posting out merch. It would take days, and very, very fortunately now we started working with a merch company called Snice, and they're absolutely brilliant, and it makes such a big difference, because even though yes, we do lose a bit out because then they're taking a small cut in order to produce and do the work, it means that we're making music rather than packing envelopes and going to the post office, which at the state there was, to begin with, there was, I enjoyed it. It was like, wow, people actually want our stuff. This is great. But when the volume just becomes too much, and then you have to figure out, well, how do I send this to Bulgaria and stuff like that, like weight ratios, and it just became like, so something like that, which is very challenging. I
guess that's building a good team, isn't it? Building a team around us is a good thing.
And I feel like that's certainly what we've done in the last year or so.
Because then I can do the designs, and then the other guy can manufacture them and send them out. So that's like the best of both worlds. Yeah,
totally. And I'm excited about your new long sleeve. Although I hate sleeves.
I'm just going to cut them off anyway.
Little like dotted lines around the sleeves with a little scissor mark so they can come off.
Yeah, I'm excited about your you should actually do that. Imagine that with a little scissor icon. I think maybe you should do that.
That'd be funny.
If you want people to come to vest,
if you because you can have hoodie vests, can't you? Like you can have zip hoodie vests, can't you? So what are you designing with sleeves at the moment?
Oh, we've got a wicked new Dark Anthems themed long sleeve that's going to be coming out soon, and also a hoodie.
Nice.
So that'll be really exciting. They should be online, I guess, in the next week.
Nice.
I believe this is the results of the social poll that we did on Instagram over the last week, asking people what kind of long-sleeved garment they would prefer, and hoodies won, and then long sleeve came second. So.
Do you guys prefer zip or non-zip?
Yeah, I like the zip.
I don't know. People like
going talking about hair again. Don't like having to ruin my hair by putting over the hood all the time. So
I like to wear 2 pieces of merch, and so rep 2 bands. So I've got like the t-shirt and the hood.
Yeah. So also, you're committed with if like it gets too hot, you can unzip. Gets too cold, you can zip up. It's versatile.
Yeah, that's true.
What about you, Vinny? Do you prefer one with the zip or without?
Oh, without. I was going to say definitely without. That's just me.
Oh, controversial, mate.
Why do you prefer without?
Because do you not think that the zip gets in the way of the artwork if there is an artwork in the middle of the?
Yeah, you have to choose how you do the artwork. You can't just have it straight on the front.
Well.
I don't know. That's just me personally. It depends what most people want, I guess. If they prefer,
we'll have to do another poll, won't we?
I suppose also if you're wearing a leather jacket, Vinny, then having 2 sets of zips isn't as cool as having just the print of the thing.
Yeah.
Well, let's. I'll do 2 designs. I'll do a zip design and a non-zip design.
What about? Well, with the zip, could you have like? No,
I could quite easily do our DB logo, one on each.
Oh
breast
yeah, that's.
Cool.
What about having the sleeves can be zipped off? What about that?
Zipped off.
Yeah, like trousers.
Yeah,
I like those. They're really useful.
What trousers?
Yeah.
What's the trouser? Is that?
I believe it's where you can unzip.
Like the Dream Boys have.
No.
Oh, I know there's no tear off trousers.
No, because it's trousers that turn into shorts.
Oh, you unzip half the leg. You don't zip from the sides downwards.
It's stripper things.
Like those Adidas popper pants from like 20 years ago.
Yeah, so not that. It's below the knee can be removed.
Oh, I see.
With a zip. So maybe we could do that with sleeves. You can zip off the sleeves.
Okay, cool. That'd be fun.
Yeah, but then you get all the zippy teeth in your armpit and it'll be all...
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's a sharp.
That's why these things don't exist already.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'll do that.
Imagine getting the skin caught when you zip it back up again.
Oh, it's not good. It's not good. All right, so we won't do that.
Okay, so there's merch with sleeves.
Yeah, so anyway, new merch coming soon.
Cool. So part of the hidden challenges of doing everything yourself is that you have to kind of have someone who designs and manufactures. And I think if you did like a little diagram of the Diamond Black ecosystem, it's like obviously centered around you guys, but then there's loads of other people that do different things have different roles within making everything possible.
Yeah.
So like you mentioned, Snice.
Yeah, although at this stage it's still a modest amount of people, which I quite like. So, obviously you do a lot in that, and so we've got some other sort of partners who help with stuff, like third-party people who help with stuff. And it just means that there's more dedicated areas, but at the same time, everybody's very accessible. So it's not like, I need to talk to such and such about this. Well, he's not in until next Tuesday, actually. So it's a good balance at the moment. But I guess as bands get bigger and there's just sort of increased demand for merchandise or product, inevitably you have to increase your team size.
Yeah, it's like building a company, isn't it? You have to have a good support team around.
Yeah.
Which we have.
Yeah, we definitely have.
What else do you have to do that people might not know about?
Carry a lot of fucking heavy shit.
So yeah.
All bands have to do that, don't they?
That's going to be
expensive. Also stuff to do with the recording.
Your label ain't going to carry it.
Yeah. But even the recording of your own music.
Yeah, carry the shit.
even when we record our own music, we then have to edit it. We have to like do all the file management of it. Whereas back in the day, you'd probably just go in the studio and sing and then fuck off. But now,
don't you like doing that though? Because then you have control over the edit.
Yes and no. I think
it's tedious, but it's like you want it done right, I suppose.
What do you think, Vinny? Would you rather just do the drums and then just fuck off and let somebody else?
Full explicit rating now.
Well, when I record, when
just sod off, and then.
Yeah, when I record my drums, I love to listen to it. But yeah, the edit.
Of course you do.
Like you said, it's so.
He loves drums, mate.
It's so tedious. It's just it takes so much time. Like days. I'm talking about days. If you really want to, look and listen to every single hit. It literally takes maybe at least 2 days, 1 day to 2 days to really.
I talked to a guy who produced one of my favorite records the other day, and the record was done about 23 years ago, and he told me that the drummer was so bad that they had to basically move every single beat, and it took 2 weeks to edit these drums on this album, right? Because there was no beat detective or no technology to put it to the grid. I think they were recording it analog. I don't know how they were doing, but apparently it took like 2 weeks to fix these drums. And that was just mind blowing because I was like, I've always listened to that album and just thought it was great. But,
amazing drumming.
yeah. But really, I mean, the drumming is one of the strong points.
The magic of editing.
But how do they play live though? Surely they're shit live.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you just don't notice so much live because the energy of the live show means you can't be like, oh, that bit's suddenly sped up or slowed down or whatever. But yeah, so. It's I guess, as you said, Nat, there is an element where you can have the comfort of knowing that yes, you think this is really good, and you're not beholden to somebody else's opinion of which take they choose. But it is time consuming, and it is days and days of work, isn't it? Where you're sort of and you can only do it for so long because after a while you just start to your brain stops working, and I certainly find that if I'm editing something and I'm going too long, I start getting lazy and just cutting corners, and I think no, I have to stop because I come back fresh and do it properly.
Yeah, because otherwise in the future you'll listen to it and be like, oh, fuck, I wish I'd done that.
Yeah, totally.
So you have to persevere through.
By the way,
just be on the recording forever.
Just for the record, okay, I don't edit each because I don't do that. But what I meant was because when I record a track, I do different takes, at least 5 different takes or different takes for the chorus, for the fills and stuff, and then I go over it and listen to it. That's what I meant. I don't edit each hit. I actually told Yanni, who was our producer, that all the drums that I sent him aren't edited because I want to retain the feel, because if you quantize it, then it just sounds so mechanical and so electronic. So I said to him, these drums aren't edited, and I kind of want to keep it that way. So that's what I meant about editing, like comping.
Yeah.
It's like a term in recording where I go over the takes and pick the best. Oh, this feel sounds better for this chorus, and then that feel or that groove sounds better on the outro, things like that. That's what
yeah, totally. And I like that we're being very, very organic with this album. So things like, as we were having a discussion yesterday about not everything is locked into a grid as it is with a lot of music in the last 20 years. What happens is it gets recorded and then software locks it all into like a grid, so everything is exactly on time. But we're not doing that. We're actually keeping the drums organic, and then we're playing the music to the drums rather than playing the music to like a grid or anything, which means it's a lot more organic and real. And there are pushes and pulls that were created by you, Vinny, you feeling a certain emotion or energy at a time, and then we're working with that. So yeah, we're doing this in a lot more of an organic way, I think. And we're using a lot of analog gear as well. So we're not just plugging straight into the computer and going, okay, bass sound, okay, guitar sound. Like Adam's been doing some amazing stuff, haven't you, Adam? With using actual pedals and basses.
Oh yeah, I've got all my stuff behind me. I've got loads of experimental things. I sent Yanni about minimum of 7 bass tracks first song, and then bass layers with varying levels of distortions and stuff. So.
And he's been absolutely loving it because he presumably doesn't get to work with that kind of analog approach much. It's usually...
You told me to push myself, so I thought, well, I will.
You really have.
And you got a new pedal, didn't you? What was that?
Oh, dude, I went to the guitar. Wait, no, the bass gallery in Camden, right? I didn't even know there was a bass specialist in Camden until now. And like I went in there and I had a dream about this guitar pedal. I know he talks about dreams.
For someone who doesn't like people talking about their dreams.
I just realised before I said it. I had a dream about this pedal like a few days prior, and it's a really rare one. It's like one that Chris from Muse plays. It's like a synth bass one. And they went in this shop that I'd never been in before, and they had it in the basement. And it was like, it's really rare from 20 odd years ago, and you can't find many that work. So I was like, oh shit, that's fated. So I bought that, and that's been going on some of the tracks. That sounds really good. Yeah.
That's so
deep
cool.
impact. If anyone's interested.
Yeah, Yanni sounded really excited. He recorded the video and then said it to us when he was mixing the bass. He sounded like he was partying there.
Yeah, it certainly was not boring. He was certainly not bored. Yeah, so it's such a cool way to approach this album in a lot more of an organic and an analog way. Whereas I think over the last sort of 20 years, people have generally fallen into just doing things digitally, copy pasting. Like, for example, one of the songs today, I was recording the vocals for the choruses, and I was making sure every chorus was slightly different. Like, the emotion has changed from chorus 1 to chorus 3, because the song is a story. Whereas a lot of the time with previous projects I've been in, I'll just copy paste the chorus across because it's the same thing, isn't it? It saves time.
Yeah, and capturing that live energy as well, because obviously.
I think it's totally better to do that.
It's not the same every time. So
it hits you differently as well. Then you'll listen to it and there's something new for your brain to pick up. Because if you've heard the same copy paste sound, your brain is like kind of not seeing anything new. So it kind of goes. It kind of goes, I know that already. But if it's something slightly different and you don't even notice what it is straight away, but you might just be like, hey, there's something else for me to get my teeth into, and then you get excited for the next part.
Totally. Like, even on a subconscious level, your brain goes, something new is happening. So, I think that's
what I tried to say. Definitely
what we did say it very well. I think that's definitely what we're going with this album, is that it's really organic and authentic, and just excited to see how it's going to sound. It's coming together really well.
This is really cool. Like, every week we're learning a little bit more about how you're making the album and all the little bits that go into being a band and doing all these things. It's not just getting up on the stage and playing and then hoping for the best. There's like all these things that go into it. A full-time job. It's more than a full-time job, because you guys are all doing it like around the clock, really. You don't just kind of stop at 5 o'clock. A full-time job, you could just go home.
Oh, yeah. But no, you don't have time off.
Yeah. So this is like, for anybody who's watching who wants to be in a band, like this is some serious.
Making like a real-time making of documentary, but as we go along making the album, documented it.
It's really cool. It's really insightful, like learning about all these different things. Like Adam, you're saying designing the merch. Like, fortunately, you can design merch, right? But most bands, if they don't, if they don't know how to design, then they're going to have to get a friend or something to start them off and do some merch for them, and that's going to be either an extra cost or anything like that, or collaborations with people that they know. That's another thing. But what then I think makes it extra challenge for us is that we're not just doing this band as a job like 24/7. We also then have to do other job that makes money for us so that we can actually live. Because at the moment, all the money that we make from the band goes straight back into the band, into producing the next thing. So it's like, well, then hang on, how do we pay rent? So we have to fit that other work in as well, and it can be not stressful, but certainly you have to think about your time management quite carefully.
But all the things we do to do that are all music related as well.
So that's very lucky in that sense. Very lucky in that sense.
You will seek out what you really love doing, I think, and make that your entire
your happiness, definitely
pursuit.
Yeah, do something that you love, and then it's like, what does he say? Love what you can't do for a job, and then it's never like working. I can't remember what the phrase is.
Yeah, it's something like, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Yeah, something like that, isn't it? Yeah, and it sort of makes sense because you're motivated by the thing that in your that you love doing.
Apart from when it comes to like fucking editing.
Well, that's a quite a lovely note to end on. Just really quickly before we go, what is everyone listening to this week?
Oh, I'll be listening to Marilyn Manson because we're going to see him tonight.
Amazing.
Oh, wow.
Cool. Yeah. In Hammersmith. The Hammersmith Hardmen are going out tonight.
Hammersmith Hardmen. What about you, Vinny V?
To be honest, nothing new. Same. Dream Theater, Shinedown. Same old. Nothing new.
Me, I find that I just haven't really been listening to a lot of music recently because I've been just focused on what we're doing. So when I'm not doing this,
just Diamond Black demos.
Yeah. So when I'm not doing this, I just don't want to listen to music. I'm gonna walk outside and listen to the sound.
Do you think if you actually are listening to a lot of other things while you're recording, it would influence your performance or the way you are doing our stuff? So,
I think so. Yes.
Maybe it's better to have a blank slate so you can just focus on this and not be influenced.
I think both elements do. I mean, I was doing the vacuuming the other day, and I was listening to
on my big,
free. Yeah, basically. And I was listening on my big headphones to some old AC/DC stuff and some Tori Amos stuff. And what I really noticed with both of those bands was that the character and personality in the vocal delivery was so good. Like really old AC/DC with Bon Scott, where he's just like a storyteller, and Tori Amos as well. Like it's not a lot of that stuff. It's not like double tracked. It's just this is the voice, and it really inspired me to want to be more and more like of a storyteller in our stuff. When in the verses of the songs, like really emote what's happening. So sometimes it can be really useful. To just be whilst you're doing something creative, listening to some other work. In terms of how the techniques are used. Nice.
All right, cool.
Yeah, it's good.
Thank you.
Just one last thing. I just wanted to add in there that Manic Street Preachers album came out last week at the same time as Dark Anthems. So been listening to that.
We have been listening to that.
Yeah, and that's really good. It's quite good. And the other thing was everyone should go and stream Dark Anthems, and Ben made a playlist of all the Dark Anthems that inspired the song, and it's on Spotify, and Adam's going to put the link in the comments. But basically, yeah, you can listen to all those different tracks and Dark Anthems at the same time.
Wicked.
Brilliant.
Cool, thank you. Please,
Thank
you. Like and subscribe our channel, by the way.
Leave us a comment.
you know it. See you next week.
Nice one. Bye. See you later. Bye.